Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Culture Shock. Today we are joined with some distinguished guests from the UWI Mona School. Today we have Sabrina Barnes, we have Dante Minto, and of course, a usual face, Carlton Scott.
Definitely.
So today we want to talk about uh, post-election and looking forward, what to expect, right? So starting with my immediate right, I want to know, Sabrina, uh, did the outcome of the election match your expectations?
I think it was kind of hard for me to determine what the outcome would have been, just given the proximity of both the, flames of the parties. So I can't necessarily say that I had a prediction or I was predicting a result. So I think the outcome is what the outcome is, and we look forward to what this government will offer.
Okay. Any thoughts on that, Minto?
Just as Sabrina, I failed to accurately, well, not accurately, to predict convincingly the outcome of the election. What I did predict, though, was that the election had been tightly contested and it was hot, it was flared, youth were involved. So, in terms of that aspect, it did match my prediction, but the outcome, I couldn't give you an outcome. Even on the day I was,
Yeah.
you know.
It was nail biting, if I might add.
It was
Yeah.
very nearby the election because even though I had a sense of what's going on in the election, it was still not being able to predict accurately what would be the outcome. But it is what it is, and we just have to continue and move on as a country with unity.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Um, so as we look forward, what are your thoughts on the achievements on the GLP administration in the previous term, and what are your expectations going forward? Starting with Sabrina again.
Okay, so as it relates to the work that the government has been doing as a young person and things that I personally would want to see. So I think as young people and as youth leaders, we have the particular things that we look for governments and we want to say, all right, this is what I want to see. To be honest, I don't think all of those things were met. Obviously, we were participative in governance, but I think governance is more people than government. And I don't think I saw so much of that. I think a lot of more Jamaicans need to be fully a part of the political process, not necessarily in voting, but also in commentary and also in holding people accountable. I don't believe in tribal politics at all. I also believe that people should be objective and call for what they want before even election period. So I definitely think that government needs to do more in enabling governance to be a people-centric situation. So as a young person, I still need more education as relates to policy. All of us here either study law or political science. So we are actually the minority of youth who are educated and are part of the political process. So I would really like to see a call to action from both parties to say, this is what we're allowing our country to know, to be a part of. More campaigns, just like how election did hot, more campaigns towards educating the public on the why of politics instead of being on the politics side. So, yeah,
Okay.
that's my.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
Say the question again.
Yes. So, in terms of the achievements of the previous administration and looking forward, what to expect.
I think I was convinced at the achievements in the first place because how the election played out, there are a portion of people who weren't necessarily convinced, as you can hear.
Yeah.
I was convinced that not everything was done. Not everything. I don't believe, as a political sense, I don't believe not everything can be done by a government at a given time because of a lot of factors. But in terms of achievements, I think the Jamaica Labour Party produced, or they were able to put forward a solid list and a solid stack of achievements that people were convinced that the country was going in the right direction. Yeah. Where Sabrina mentions a people-centric approach, I 100% agree because it's one thing to operate high up top in a big seat in government, but if the people are not feeling it, and that is why the government would have committed in the lead up to the elections and before the election that no, all of the macro gains should now translate to households. So that's something I'm looking forward to. How are we going to ensure that the macro gains, which are foundational and important, how are we going to ensure that all of those gains translate to every single household in Jamaica?
Definitely.
Okay.
My view is that we have seen results. Whether you're on the fence that you have not seen anything, it's been statistically proven, and I do believe that more should be done for the young person, especially related to housing. Housing a big factor. As young professionals, you know that we're going to eventually in the working world, and most of us can't afford a house that is in 1 bedroom for 20 million or so, because our salary is not in passing 220,000. So that is something that, separate apart from the macroeconomics, that we need to find a way to improve young people, not just giving them jobs on paper, but sustainable employment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like that you brought up the point about housing, and that allows me to segue into the next question. I want to know what are some specific policies you guys are looking forward to in this new term being implemented?
Well, I think social welfare housing, I've been hearing that across party aisles. So I'm looking forward to more grassroots communities being able to access housing, not necessarily because they can't afford it, but the availability of such. When it comes to even land ownership and crown lands, one of the biggest arguments, especially in a constitutional reform era that we're in, is that a lot of people can probably buy the house, but they can't pay for the land. So I am looking forward to the land titles being transferred as well. Both parties has agreed to that for people who have land based on adverse possession and those lands that would have been given after the bauxite period and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to Jamaican people allowing themselves to call something their own home. So I'm looking forward to that, obviously. And one of the good things about those policies that both parties, whether in different terms or different wording, put across that contribution. So I'm looking forward to people being able to call their own home theirs.
Okay.
Definitely.
So coming out of the election, it was very clear that a sore point housing and on was water. The government would have made a promise, a commitment to do a spark, the spark road program, something targeted for water, that would capture around or benefit around 900,000 Jamaicans. That is something significant, and I think that's something we should put all our resources in. But in terms of things that I'm looking forward to, there are so many others. Because even today I was reading a LEAP program proposed by the government. This is a program where tertiary students can be placed strategically in different areas of society, public, private sector, where they can get jobs and internships. This improves their job readiness.
Yeah.
Another thing I was really looking forward to was is the Minister Vaz and the electricity renewal agreement. He's been a fierce advocate publicly. He's said a lot, and he's positioned himself in a way where we should trust that he could deliver. And I want to see that. I want to see that manifest. So that's something I'm looking forward to see. How better can we get the energy sector to operate for Jamaicans in Jamaica? So those are some of the few things. There are so many things I'm looking forward to. In terms of governance, I do think we need to ensure that the opposition, both parties call for unity. So it's agreed across the aisles. But I'm looking forward to seeing it happen. Whoever was the roadblock last time, whoever was, on either side. I hope that, we can take a different position because, you see, partisanship can carry us so far. But it's going to take a joining of hands for us to, move forward on certain things like constitutional reform.
Yes.
That's something I want to see happen.
Yes.
I want my country to be sovereign. So whoever is blocking the process needs to stop.
Well said.
Okay, for me, the things I'm looking forward to, especially in terms of economic growth, especially the implementing of the logistics hub that is being currently, it's already been in place here at Caymanas, and other things, especially as a student in terms of student loan forgiveness programs.
Yeah, there is.
Those are things that really matters to me, as well as social housing.
Okay, cool. Somebody mentioned the opposition. I think it was Dante. So on that point, I want to segue and ask, what role do you think the opposition should play in keeping this government accountable over the next 5 years?
One, I mean, I think the opposition has done that over the last couple of years. The opposition in the context of current opposition, they're fierce, they're loud, which is very important, very important. And as the elections would have, the outcome of the elections would now have it, is that there is a slimmer majority within parliament. So I believe that a good and a strong opposition, speaking up when they need to speak up, supporting what they need to support, constructively, I think that keeps the government in high order, high efficiency to ensure that there are no missteps. So I'm really looking forward to the opposition to continue to do what they've done. I think they've done it. They've done it adequately over the last number of years. To the point where I'm very convinced they're a very good opposition.
Any thoughts on that, Sabrina?
I mean, I really wouldn't wish to reiterate what was already said, but I do believe that the opposition is ready to play their part in holding the government accountable and also calling for more transparency when it comes to public documents and public processes and just allowing people to also be educated along the way. I think also, as mentioned, the slimmer margin does put more pressure on the government to perform, and I think that's all we want, you know, a performative government. So I think when it comes to an active democracy, Jamaica does some sort of have that. I think a participative democracy is what this opposition is looking forward to. And I'm thinking that that will be done given the results of the election. And we just, as young people, look forward to watching and also adding our conversations and our input towards it, because I also feel like, as mentioned prior to when we just started, governance is not only government.
Yeah.
So the people themselves also, they're also a part of keeping the government in line.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do reiterate what Sabrina and Dante says about keeping terms of accountability, because we look at even with constitutional reform, the opposition has done certain stuff to ensure that the constitution is not violated, because many persons do not understand their constitutional rights. And when the opposition challenges these cases, they're proving that there are certain situations that their constitution is being violated. Well, I think going forward, we need to have a more unified front as it relates to cooperation between both government and opposition, so that this country can actually be the place to live, work, and raise families. Not just Vision 2030, but a vision for Jamaica.
Okay. All right. So what do you think the top 3 priorities of the administration should be going into this new term?
Okay, in simpler terms, one of the first things, I want to see how the propositions made reflect into the everyday liberty of people. I hear the big numbers, I hear the statistics, and I hear people say that the lives of Jamaicans are being better. But with somebody who's from a grassroots community from rural central Jamaica, I'm not seeing that being reflected into the day-to-day lives of some of the people. So I'd like to see that translation. And also would like to see increased youth participation, not just in conversations, because yes, I've seen a lot of youth leaders at the table, but the implementation of policy, I don't see where government is really trying to get young people in that area. So I want to see more of that. I can't say it has been absent, but I'd like to see more. And as a young person, as a youth leader, I think we deserve that. As well as I'd like to see more opportunities for disenfranchised Jamaicans. And I'm not just talking people who are unattached, but the disability group that we have make up so much of our population. Yet still they're unemployed, yet still they're not a part of the active Jamaica. We want to hear their voices. I want to actually hear the deaf, and that might sound impossible, but it is possible with advancement of technology and the way how Jamaica is going forward, I can say that the right steps are being made, but I want to see an intention in those steps being made.
Top three priorities for me would include water, housing, and it's a hard because there's so many of them. I think water is number one, housing is another one. I think what needs to continue to be a priority is the sustained reduction of our debt. I don't think we should leave that path. And I think we're sharing the other day in a conversation that
Definitely.
there's a threat to that, to leave from the path of fiscal discipline. So I think fiscal discipline has to continue to be a top priority because all of these things that we're talking about cannot happen without the financial space. So fiscal discipline, and if we attack water and housing, I think a lot more Jamaicans.
Sorry,
will
not
be
to cut you
satisfied.
off, not to add into that in terms of physical discipline is that we need to go domestically because you can put in physical discipline measures and you're not growing. What we're currently seeing in Jamaica is that we are a service-based economy. We don't do we're not a production-based economy. We have just in terms of our biggest economic growth is in tourist sector, and if we're not producing, there's no way we can actually be able to cope with these implementation of these plans.
That's true.
Yeah, and what you notice is that when we're so over reliant on tourism, there are some inherent risks that come into play. Look at COVID, for example.
COVID.
Right? So when we talk about sustainable growth, we need to think about measures that can be taken that regardless of what is going on elsewhere outside of the world, we're able to thrive, we're able to feed our people, we're able to have infrastructure in place. So that's an excellent point you brought up. Yeah. All right, so let's highlight young people a bit more now. So
Excited.
Definitely.
So young people, as you know, face challenges in jobs, education, and housing. I want some specific responses that you think the administration should utilize in terms of making young people feel more included in the national development.
Okay.
I think to answer that part, I think in Jamaica, and I think even the election period of underscored that point of, you see, opportunities are not necessarily given to you, they should just be made accessible. So for example, I don't necessarily want it to be a case where Sabrina, this opportunity is yours. It should be that Sabrina is able to go to a place to access all of these opportunities. I think for too long we have a culture of people waiting for these things to reach to them. So I think we need to bring forward that self-reliant and that, being a little bit more self-independent. When you hear of Marcus Garvey and all the things that he put towards like a 10-point plan, I really want to see our government not necessarily go back to that script, but to go back to that vision of Jamaican people understanding that they already have that innate talent to make better of themselves, and the government should be aiding in that. Because what we don't want to find is that we're spending so much money on social welfare and people not utilizing what is being provided. For example, high trust NSTA. A lot of people don't utilize it, and it's there and it's being paid for and it's free.
Yeah.
And
they get
the
a
market
stipend.
is
They even
there.
get a stipend as well.
You're being paid to go to school.
Yeah.
Yet a lot of young people are still unattached. So we are understanding that that methodology might not be working. So we need to utilize more motivation and some sort of soft skill development of our young people, so that when it comes to jobs, opportunities, and young people being involved, that we know that they already have that hub waiting for them to apply for. So I really think that we need to do more to change and to shift the mindset of Jamaicans. And it's really harder than said, but I think when the intention is placed behind it, then we can, move forward.
I think Sabrina says it well because opportunities are there.
Mhm.
As she mentioned, hard trust where you get a stipend to go. Free up to level 5. And in terms of education, student loan accessible to everyone,
Mhm.
almost no guarantors.
Mhm.
We're about to enter a debt reset
Reset.
for student loans. And I also mentioned earlier the LEAP program. I want to see that manifest really because there are a lot of students at university who would love a job to help them to go through university. And the program is also a pay while you learn program. So you get a job and that can help you to, cover your costs for university. So when it comes on to youth and opportunities, I think the government has been trying.
Mhm.
Intent is there, but Sabrina mentioned sometimes it's just either persons don't know or persons don't have the will. So Sabrina says it perfectly. If we could go in and change your minds and get you motivated to do all of these things, because STEM and STEAM is where the world is going. And we just make that free. So, I think Sabrina said it well.
What about housing though?
Housing.
I get the job
Housing is a sticky topic for me. I cannot tell you that I fully understand it. But what I'll tell you though is that I do disagree with the PNP's position on it. Because what I understand the problem to be is a problem of supply and demand. The issue is that we're short on supply. When the PNP proposes what you call it now, incentive or a give
I
out
mean, the
of
young
the grant.
the
grant.
35, once every young
Yeah.
person, 35 and older or younger, I'm not sure.
Younger. You get a grant of 500. It sounds really good, honestly. But what I think it does, it will increase demand for housing, and there's still no solutions to fix supply. So whereas the government now would have said 15% of houses are towards young people, yeah, we need to make that higher because 15% now sounds like. But
Where's the man?
Yeah.
I think housing I can't fully engage on that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, let me cut you off. The problem is not about percentage. You can give percentage, but the thing is, the percentage for those houses, 1 bedroom house right now in Jamaica on average is 18 million, right? 2 bedroom on average is 38 million. So I'm saying you can give percentage, but can people afford it? And
So I think we are making the same point. However, we are going back to the whole issue of housing and social housing because it's two different arguments.
that's true.
Housing is making it accessible to those who can purchase. Social housing is allowing people to have a roof over their head because they cannot afford it at all. And those two different arguments have to have two different policies.
That is true.
And they have to have two different ways in which we target them as a government. So when I can understand the arguments about funding and also supply and demand, we also have to understand if there's a demand for people to buy versus a demand for people to just access.
Yes.
So when we understand the difference between the two, we can also understand the different propositions made by different parties. However, the housing argument is not one I wish to dwell on because when it comes to land, that's a whole different argument. And then the land issue in Jamaica allows housing to be difficult.
Because even when you look at it, even in terms of foreign direct investments, that also plays a big factor in our housing market as well. Why you see, and also as well as demand, because most persons want to get housing where the jobs are, that is in Kingston and St. Catherine. That's why you see the housing market or even the real estate market is higher there. So if in a situation that we could more decentralize our workspace or our corporations, I think housing would be cheaper.
I think we also have to analyze our social issues from a Commonwealth Caribbean perspective. This is an issue that most Commonwealth Caribbean countries have because of the issue of crown lands and just how land is not necessarily something you own but an interest in.
Yeah.
And that interest can easily be taken away from people who also have a beneficiary interest. So as I said, the housing and land issue is not something that one government can have a solution for within a particular time frame because of the issues that we already inherit.
Even speaking of that, I'm not going to get political, but you can even remember Bernard Lodge situation or certain situations that came up in the past.
Well, I think adverse possession also is a different argument. And also, as I said, people don't own land, they own an interest in land. So when we can talk about unconstitutionality and injustice of such, we also have to take the nature of the situation to know that people don't own land, they own an interest in such.
That is true.
Well, I agree with all of you. I agree with all of you. But I want to kind of take it in a different direction. So we have seen many times where government intervention is necessary into markets, regardless of what kind of market we're talking about. Government intervention is something that is necessary at times. Do you think it would be beneficial to have government intervention and to set a price ceiling on homes?
I don't think that is possible because
That's not possible.
if we understand acts and statutory provisions, we do have a Jamaica Conveyancy Act, and we do have acts put in place already that have been agreed upon when it comes to pricing, inflation, and economic standards of our country. Those things can't be stagnant. They have to have what you call mobility. So because of how Jamaica is and because of the racing economy, Jamaica is also a part of a global economy. And because of those standards, our economic ceilings or what I call caps cannot be closed.
It cannot be closed.
Cannot be closed off, especially when we're looking for investment and just based on the trajectory. And he mentioned fiscal discipline.
Yeah.
Putting a ceiling on something will allow governments have to put into their pockets to promote more welfare. And we do know the benefits of welfare, but nobody is really open to the discussion about the disadvantages of welfare to an economy. So with that being said, as a person who can analyze, economics and policy, I don't think that would be one of the best solutions to the issues that we have.
Because it totally go against in terms of free trade and also our domestic growth indicators, because real estate is actually one of the biggest factors in terms of domestic growth for us looking into the future.
Not as a country, but
Not
individual
individual
pockets.
person,
But yes, I do agree.
Okay, well, so as we know, elections are usually divisive, right? The question to this panel is, how can the regular citizen be more inclusive and be more united despite party differences?
It all leads up to the conversation on how well government can be able to educate policy and policy prescriptions. To be honest, I think on our social media platforms, the election was seen by a lot of Jamaicans as National Sports Day, coming out in your green, in your orange, and just supporting party lines and not party policies. So at the end of the day, looking at Jamaica's literacy rate and how well we understand policies, the truth is, I want us to be able to reach a point that this discussion is something that any layman Jamaican can have. And the truth is, the status quo is not that. So understanding that, I think when they use the gimmicks of politics, can easily be played when it comes to the Jamaican people. And that is where young leaders come in and influential people can be able to break down. So you see a lot of podcasts come out in an election time, a lot of young people, some people who never turned commentator commentate. Right. A lot of people were able to break down and to teach people. But now what we have to understand is that teaching and learning is more than one saying. It's also allowing them to give feedback. I don't think a lot of Jamaicans had the opportunity to share. And I'm not talking the ones who are commentators. I'm talking about the actual electorate. They would have shown their what you call allegiance, but not necessarily how they feel as Jamaicans. So I really think for us to, go forward as a country, education and access to information has to improve. And we have to understand that right to education is not school, is not pedagogy. It's more of allowing the citizenship to be literate.
Very good points there by Sarina, but I think to add to that, what it takes is responsible political leaders. And the things you say on your platform, how you engage the people listening to you is very important. And for me, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I think there's a very clear distinction in how both parties communicated this election. I think there was one party who tried to educate, to teach, to reason, to be transparent, to say this is the case, this is what we're trying to do about it, and this is the situation. I think there was another party who was very effective in engaging, how do I say? But there was another party who was very effective in engaging their base, to speak to their base, to fire them up, to rally, to rally them. And that's good for a political party, but it comes down to the things that you discuss on your platform. And I think for me, there was a clear difference in terms of matter and manner on both platforms throughout the election.
I mean, I understand your point, but if you're actually looking at it, both parties, because you've seen a lot of different stuff on both parties where there was a lot of decorum, especially in terms of words of ethics.
I think I think going back to education and the teaching and learning space, we cannot wait on election times on electoral platforms have these
So they need to
discussions.
bring back civics.
So obviously gerrymandering and misinformation, it is a part of the political atmosphere. It drives the psychology of the electorate. And that is something that is staying that part of Jamaica's culture. When I speak about the right to education, I'm going back to understanding what the electoral process is when you're a child, when you can at least see that your parents are engaged in a process and you can add your 2 cents because you learn this in a social studies, you learn this a part of your devotional assembly, you learn this in a typical conversation between student and teacher. That is what I call a literate democracy, when students, teachers, the layman on the road cannot only understand what a man said on a microphone, but they can, before the microphone and the platforms are available and accessible in the political time, can understand these things. Because the truth is, a lot of people only came to rallies to listen, to hear. They were never given a town hall opportunity to do such. They were never given another opportunity to hear so much about governance. And I think that is very poor when it comes to the overall governance of our country.
Definitely, because if you look at even the Observer or the Beacon, when they did their interviews with different persons, different political parties, half of them don't even know what they were there for other than family support, or they just like the party. There was never any substance in most of these interviews.
Can I say, though, on the point of town halls, I've been to a couple town halls, and the attendance is always terrible. We call for them, people say they engage with us more, but the truth is, when we're outside of the political season, not a lot of persons are interested. It's the truth, and it's sad. But I've been to town halls, and I can tell you that people don't come to them. People don't come. Don't engage.
It's also a part of marketing. There's two different marketing campaign strategies when you do a town hall versus election time. And again, I say, if we always use the dance to promote, it's not about necessarily the information when you're promoting it. It's about the edutainment that is provided. Jamaicans thrive off engagement and entertainment. And we utilize all those cultural and holistic folklore in election time, but we don't utilize it in town hall promotion. That's just the truth. We have not utilized the same strategies to do a lot of things. So I am not surprised when he can say a rally is more packed than a town hall, because they're both promoted two different ways. And that's again what I'm saying about intention. The truth is, if you intend for a town hall to have as much people as a rally, it will never end. So you have to know how to form groups and to target institutions to have town hall, not a mass meeting, but to still get that feedback from the gatherings. So I'm not talking about numbers at meetings. I'm talking about matter from the people coming forward through social institutions that are already established in our country.
I do agree with Sabrina's point.
Yeah, well said, right across the board. So my next question is, if you were advising the Prime Minister today,
Oh Lord.
what would you tell him to do differently in this new term compared to the last?
Hello, Mr. Muto. First.
Clearly, I'm of the opinion that Prime Minister is doing a good job. Not only me, but the entire electorate. But
You
in
mean
terms
all
of-
40%
I
of the
would say
in
electorate?
terms of, in terms of difference, I think let's change how we engage youth.
Mhm.
We have them there at the table, but let's try to listen to them to implement some of the things. Don't be afraid to give young people credit for some of the ideas. Don't be afraid to take us to say, this is what's wrong with the idea, or this is what's right with the idea, and this is what we're going to, So for me, it's really youth engagement and how it's done. But for the most part, I think what needs to be done is being done.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead. My advice to, the sitting prime minister is, I think, more attached to the minority groups that exist in Jamaica and the notion of inclusivity. Our motto speaks the out of many we are one, out of many one people, yet still many of our people are left out. And I have to speak on that because the electorate is not even a representation of the Jamaica that we have. And I have an issue with that because if we look at the electorate and we look at the Jamaica, the representation doesn't match up. So therefore, as the Prime Minister of Jamaica, not the Prime Minister of the electorate, there has to be a different approach in how we include the people who have been excluded. And what I say is really important because we have to ensure that the regular Jamaican can feel the results of a performative government. And I'm not seeing that as a youth leader. We can talk about youth engagement, we can talk about inclusivity, but we have to talk of the intention of such. Because it can happen. Young people are called to boardrooms all the time. We have people with different, I call them disabilities that are called to rooms all the time, but the narrative is still the same. So I need more intention. I need more call to action of Jamaican people. I've seen civil society write press release. I've seen non-profit organizations do what you'll call them now. Where you sign up to things them and petitions.
Petitions.
And I'm sure that these voices are not soft. They're very loud. But the acknowledgement that, for example, a Wake Up Jamaica has said this, a JFJ has said this, and we, the government, have seen and recognized this. I'm not seeing it because you cannot tell me that these voices are silent. So I want more recognition of civil society, of regular groups of young people and different platforms that have been talking. And I want them to be included in a list that we can see the Prime Minister is recognizing that they have said this and they're talking about it. Because the truth is, in the election time, everybody with a little beanie podcast get a shout out. You could have 2,000 followers and you have a political representative on your platform. They're going to give some reference to you if you understand. They had some matter of importance in the election time. I want to see that in the day-to-day lives. That me and you can be sitting here and having a conversation, and if you mention the Prime Minister, that he can recognize the conversation that we have and speak to it. And then we can see some results going forward. I feel a disconnect from government and governance and people. And I saw the connect in election time. So I just really like the reality to be true.
Fair enough.
How would you advise the Prime Minister differently?
I would advise him that to continue, as Minto mentioned earlier, physical discipline and implementing social programs both find a striking balance. Where both report, just as Sabrina said, where both people can see the macroeconomic and the larger in there and the economic is
connect to their livelihood.
livelihood. But yeah, that's my basis and my standpoint.
All right. So let's end this conversation on this final note. What does the next 5 years look like in terms of success? What does success look like at the end of the next 5 years? And what does failure look like?
I think I always say that failure is the inability to accomplish a manifesto. But I think in Jamaican terms, that is not necessarily possible because I think a manifesto is the ideal prescription that we would like to adhere to. I think what success looks like is a thriving, participating democracy. And that's really all I need as a youth leader to say that when I say something as Sabrina Barnes, we don't need a title, we don't need to hold a position. I'm just recognized as a Jamaican. I think for too long, if you're not a Jamaican JP, MP, or with a particular position, what you say don't really matter. So I want a regular Jamaican, even if you can't put it in words, you can put it in writing. If you can't put it in writing, you can put it in vernacular. I want to see more cultural appreciation and people does the authentic Jamaican talking and our policymakers listening. That is really what success looks like to me, because at least I can say that even if you're green or you're orange, the truth is the truth. The community standards matter. Just like when the road one fix and you can take a picture of the pothole and the next day you see carpet, I also want to say when you say that the economy is thriving, that people can afford chicken and have to buy chicken back, that people have to live off a tin mackerel, that women who need access to products can actually get it without GCT attached to them, that people who are under a poverty line can rise above the line and go through social mobility. Our country is yet to meet those standards, and until then, we don't have a successful government.
Well said, Sabrina. Well said. Well said. So wrapping up, to wrap up quickly, Dante. Success and failure. What does that look like? What are the 5 years?
Well, I can't really tell a failure, but I can tell a success. For me, success is Jamaica where we're loving towards each other, we love each other, we can hold hands, we can live good. At the end of the day, leave all this politics thing for politics time. But I want a Jamaica with reduced violence. We just need to learn to develop it. Also for me, I want to see a growth in our economy where enterprise is booming, where a man can go work. Well, I mean, it's acknowledged they can work now, make money, but we want to ensure that Jamaicans get a bigger piece of the pie. I think that's where we need to head towards. But you know, for me, real success is a happy, harmonious Jamaica where you can live, work, and raise your family. That's really.
And failure is just not doing that.
Yeah. Any final comments?
I don't really have any final comments, but I agree with both Minto eloquently said it and also Sabrina as well. In terms of economic growth, improving people's lives, I have nothing else to add to it. That's the greatest thing any Jamaican can do. Not just choose Jamaica, but choose Jamaicans.
Well said, well said. Well, that's all for now, folks. Thanks for joining us. Again, we're having a very fruitful conversation. Sabrina Barnes, Dante Minto, and our usual host, Carlton Scott. So, thanks again for joining us. And Enrique Thompson, of course. Thank you for joining us once again. Culture Shock.
Bye, guys.